guys, what's up? It's your girl Jenna here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. If this is your first time, welcome. If you're coming back, welcome back. I have been wanting to talk about this issue for probably about a week now. I thought of the idea and I posted it on Facebook that I was going to talk about this, and a lot of people were very excited about it and wanted to hear about my experiences in Hollywood. So that is what I'm going to do today. This is my first ever storytime video, and I'm super excited because I watch storytimes all the time on YouTube. Basically, if you've never watched a storytime, it's where people just tell a story. It's really can be varying length. It could be really short, up till 30 minutes to an hour long. Don't worry, mine won't be that long, but I wanted to talk a little bit about some of my experiences in Hollywood and my experiences being a woman in the production side of Hollywood, and just kind of what has been happening with the whole sexual harassment, sexual assault stuff, and kind of my perspective on it from being out in LA doing that kind of thing. So I'm just gonna get started at the very beginning of my story, and let's just get going and I'll see where this video goes. So I guess I can go back to the very beginning when I first decided I wanted to pursue video editing as a career. I was 15 years old and I discovered video editing for the first time on a PC, and it was a hand-me-down laptop. It was Windows Movie Maker. It was the worst thing ever, but I fell in love with it. When I was 16, I got a Mac for my birthday, which was the best gift ever, better than like a car, because I was so obsessed with the computer, and getting a Mac was just kind of like my portal into be able to create so much more stuff. So I discovered iMovie, and then that really took off my my career in video editing. And when I was in my senior year of high school, I had to make a decision, not only what college to go to, but also what my major was going to be. And I really thought a lot about it, and I decided I wanted to pursue video editing as a full-time career. And so I decided to major in media production, which was the major at the school that I decided to attend. It's a small Christian school in Minnesota, and it was the school I wanted, but when I went there, I realized that the major wasn't the greatest. It wasn't really highly funded, and there wasn't a lot of students in it. So what they recommended we do is spend a semester abroad at a school called the Los Angeles Film Study Center in LA. It's basically a study abroad program for Christian colleges across the country. It's the only Christian film program in LA, and you get accepted or not, and I got accepted. Really great, exciting thing to decide that I wanted to go to LA. I was 21 at the time. I was a junior, and I decided, hey, let's try out Hollywood and see what that's like. So that is what I did. I flew to LA. Actually, I drove, what am I talking about? I drove to LA with my dad and moved into an apartment at Park La Brea, which is one of the largest apartment complexes in LA. I had 4 roommates that I never met from all across the country. And basically how the program worked was you would get an internship, and you do that 3 days a week. And then the other 2 days you would go to classes there, film classes and classes about production and storytelling and Hollywood workshops, and it was really, really cool program. I thought it was really well done, and I really did like the program a lot. But there were some things that I learned being there, being in Hollywood, that I didn't really expect, and that's kind of what I wanted to talk about, and mainly the reason that I didn't stay out there. I moved back to Minnesota and decided not to pursue Hollywood editing. So if you don't really know what a film set is like, I didn't really either until I moved out there, and each person on our film, part of our film program, got to be on a crew. So there was 13 of us on each film, pretty much, because I think there's about 50 of us students, and there were 2 editors, 2 sound people, 1 director, 2 producers, casting, costume and makeup, all the different roles that you need for being on a film set. We had about a $2,000 budget, and we made our film, and I can put the link below to the film. I thought it turned out really good. So, but it was a very interesting experience, something like I had never done before. And I want to talk about a few things that happened that really helped me understand why these women in Hollywood didn't come forward. Well, one of the first things that I realized is that there's an imbalance of men and women in the film industry. There's definitely fit roles for different people. For example, men usually are directors and the editors and a lot of the tech side, and women are more of the costumes, makeup, casting, that kind of thing. So there's definitely more gender specific people in different roles, and I felt like I was kind of unique because I was in kind of a man's role by being a film editor. And so of the 8 people that were editors, there's only 2 of us that were women. So I definitely felt a little out of place being one of the only 2 women. It was me and my roommate in the program. Well, I didn't really feel discrimination. I just felt like people were like, why are you an editor? I just felt like it wasn't something that a lot of women did. And so it was just kind of confusing to people. And even to this day, people get confused when I say, oh, I love editing. I love being a video editor. And they're just like, really? Like, that's not what women are known for. They're known for more of the feminine type roles. And I think that that stereotype has perpetuated into something that is still managed today. A lot of women get not stereotyped, but just prejudiced and kind of bullied out of certain roles because they're seen as men's roles, especially a lot of the techie behind the scenes roles. So when I was doing that, when I was doing my internship, which I'll talk about in a little bit, I learned that one of the first things that editors do when they move to LA, and one of the easiest jobs to get, and basically a job that a lot of people start out with, is editing porn, which I think is, first of all, I don't believe in porn. I think it's a terrible thing, and I don't approve of it. And so when I found that out, I was extremely shocked and also very weary of that, because I thought, man, that's not what I want to be doing at all. Like, I would literally never do that. I would rather pick any other job but doing that. But I think that that really affects a lot of the men that are in this industry by having them do that as a first assignment. It really affects the way they portray women in their minds. By having to watch those clips all day long is really something that I was extremely shocked by, and something that isn't really talked about, especially in the Midwest where I'm from. So yeah, that was just like kind of a wake-up call for me, being like, wow, this is not really what I expected. I thought that there were going to be a lot of women out here, but I started doing some research on how many women are actually in the video editing field, and I realized it's really not that many. And same with women directors, and that's something that I've kind of looked into recently, is the basically how many male directors there are compared to female directors is astounding. And I'll probably put some links below to some of the statistics, but it's shocking. And so I think honestly that is one of the main reasons why I think there's so much power imbalance in Hollywood, is the fact that women aren't promoted and put on in films, and there's not that many film directors. And even when they are directing, there's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes. There's a Tumblr account that I follow called, I think it's called Shit People Say to Women Directors or something. I'll leave the link below. But it's something that if you want to get angry really quickly, read this Tumblr. I don't think I've ever gotten as angry on the internet as I have reading some of these stories from women that are on the crews of some of these shows and movies. And it's just crazy how much there is an unbalance of power in Hollywood and just on every film set. And it's something that isn't really talked about. And I think that now that all these stories are coming out, it's gonna be a bigger deal moving forward. So there's a few things I wanted to mention. And my personal experience on film sets, where looking back, I've realized now that some of the people involved have been accused of either sexual misconduct or sexual harassment or sexual abuse. And I'm just realizing it now that I was like on the set of those things. So the first example, which, I mean, this is awful, so I don't know why I'm laughing, but I'm just kind of like, this is weird. So the first example was at my internship, which was at a post-production house in Burbank, which honestly, it was a really cool studio, and they were filming a show there called The High Fructose Adventures of the Annoying Orange, which is a Cartoon Network show based off the YouTube channel series The Annoying Orange, which I I kind of had watched but wasn't the biggest fan of. But it was really cool because I was so into YouTube that they had a lot of YouTubers like iJustine and all that like voice the show. And the main star of the show is a man named Toby Turner. And if you watch YouTube, you probably recognize that name because he was a huge YouTuber a few years ago. But if you also don't keep up with YouTube that much, you might not have known that this whole sexual harassment, sexual abuse thing that is going on right now happened about 2 or 3 years ago on YouTube. And a lot of people came out and were accused of that kind of thing. And there's a lot of things, and I'll link those below too. But one of the people that came out as being violent towards women is Toby Turner. And that was the show that I was working on, and that was the show that I was an intern behind the scenes on. And I hadn't really met Toby. He was they filmed offset, and they were at a different location. But I remember going one day I had to go over and get his autograph for a fan who was there for the Make-A-Wish Foundation, which looking back is really weird to me. But I had to go online, find a picture, print it out, and then drive over there, get him to sign it, and then bring it to the kid who was gonna come and see our studio. So I actually did meet Toby. He was fully in costume, and he was working on the show. And it was just like a normal encounter, and I was like really excited to see him because I was a fan. And then I left, and that was it. And then, years later, find out that what he had done, which was awful, and it just gives me creeps, being like, oh man, this Make-A-Wish kid wanted to come in and meet him and be on this show, and it was very odd. So that was one of the examples of something that kind of happened where I wasn't even aware of stuff that was going on behind the scenes. Another example that when I wasn't even in LA, and something that just came out last week, is Mark Schwann from One Tree Hill, which if you know me, that's my favorite show, and I absolutely love that show so much. It has such a special place in my heart, and I loved it so much that I decided to go to the set of the show during season 9. I actually filmed a video, and I will show a little bit of it right here. But I actually went down my my sophomore year of college, so this was even before LA, and I decided to go down to see the set of the show in Wilmington, and it was the coolest experience I've ever done. I think it was cooler even than my LA experience because I got to see basically the whole set of the show. I got to meet some of the cast, and it was just an amazing experience. But looking back at it now, after what has come out in the last few weeks, it really taints my view of what it was like down there. And it really makes me really sad. And that is the fact that Mark Schwann, according to 18 women on the show, as well as many of the men on the show, was a sexual harasser, and he was someone who was abusive to the people on the show. I'm not quite sure, and I don't want to speak for them, but just if you want to read the articles, I'll link them all below. And it was just very disheartening to see that the show that I had revered was so filled with negative things like this, and that it was an unsafe environment for the women that were working there. One of the reasons that I look back on it now is Hillary Burton, who played Peyton, she left in season 6. And I'm wondering now if the reason that she left was because of what was happening, which at the time I don't think anyone knew why she left. She didn't really give a reason. And so looking back, I'm wondering if that's it. So I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of brief background on a few instances that I've either been a part of something or just witnessed a show that now has been called out for being, or someone on a show that's been called out for being abusive. And it's just really weird to think that I was there. I was on those sets, not even being aware of anything that was happening behind the scenes. So that was a super interesting experience this week, just kind of looking back on little things that I saw and things that I've just have been accumulating in my head for the last 4 years since I went out there. And I think I just want to talk a little bit about what I think all of this means, and then maybe what all of this can turn into. Well, one of the things that I think this whole Me Too thing and all of the allegations that are coming out, I think it's going to get more women talking. I think the power of social media is going to allow women to have a voice and be able to actually tell people what's happening and not let it happen, because women can be so afraid of losing their job, of, you know, all of that stuff. It's not just being afraid that they're going to get hit on or, you know, abused, but the fact that all of the repercussions from them telling anyone is sometimes worse. It's the shame, it's the backlash, it's the people not believing them, that kind of thing that I think women are more afraid of than the actual abuse itself. So I think once we start talking about this and it becomes less stigmatized, I think that film sets are going to change. I think that there's going to be a shift in power. I think that this is, I know it's not good for the women that have been abused, but I think it's good for the overall film industry to take a look and say, hey, there's an issue here. There is people that are abusing their power, and it's just not okay. And this has gone on for too long. This is how the industry in Hollywood has been forever. When I was there, I could sense such a darkness in Hollywood, and that was one of the main reasons I decided not to stay in LA. It was just not what I was looking for, and I just knew going there was not the right place for me. I'm really lucky that I can now edit videos on my computer and do it for a lot of different clients, and that's what I do now, and not have to worry about being on a film set and having to deal with all these creepy people in the film industry. And that's one of the reasons why I decided not to stay, was I just had heard so many stories, and I just didn't want to have to live my life that way. So looking back and looking forward, I think that one of the big things that really needs to change is the number of women on film sets and behind the scenes in certain roles, like producer, director, editor, etc. If you ever look at some of the statistics on the number of women who have won awards for, like, Academy Awards for directing and editing, it's maybe 1 or 2 in each category, which is insane. And I think that the more women that are given an opportunity to be in those roles, the more you'll see people getting nominations. So I think just change in the whole film industry and change in the whole, just everything just needs to kind of shift. And I think that we're at that point. So yeah, so that's basically what I wanted to talk about today. It was just a little bit of background on my experiences, just a few things that I've seen, as well as being a woman in a man-dominated field, and just kind of how that has affected me a little bit. Again, I'm really lucky that I haven't had anything serious happen, but I know and I pay attention, and I'm trying to be less naive than I was when I first moved out to LA. I think I was very naive in what I thought LA was and what I thought the film industry was. And I think that now I've learned a lot. I'm gonna leave some links below to some movies and some documentaries that I would recommend that kind of show you what the film industry and what show business is really like, because it's not as great as it seems. There's a lot of negative sides to it, but at the same time, I love film still. I still love dreaming about Hollywood and all of that stuff, but it's just, once I've lived there, I realized, this is not what I thought. But I still appreciate a lot of what they do there, and there's some really awesome experiences that I got to have. So I hope that you guys enjoyed my first ever story time. This was just really fun for me to talk about a few of the things that I have done, and let me know if you want more stories from LA. I'm sure I have a lot more because I was there for 6 months, and it was, there were some great times and there were some bad times. So I could talk about both, and I would love to continue this conversation, and I hope that you guys subscribe to my channel. I'll have some more story times and some fun stuff coming up soon. So have an awesome day. I'll talk to you soon.